Hey guys, it's your boy, Ballface8020, back again with another great commentary. So, I want to address again the concept of it being over for Zoomers. Since I've been in the Black Pill community, this is what I've been hearing. Whenever I've tried to say, like, look, there are other things like personality do matter. It's all about, finding your looks match. You don't need to be Chad. I've gotten, needless to say, a tremendous amount of pushback, basically saying, like, well, you were in the game at a different time. You dealt with a different generation of women. Now, with online dating, you essentially have to be Chad to get, there is no thing, there's no looks matching anymore. You're either Chad or you go without. Um, to the point, I would say, based on it could just be like a loud minority, but based on what I've seen in comments and stuff, it does seem to be a consensus among black pillars. And by the way, I bash them for being autistic. Most of these people are not autistic. It does seem to be the consensus that, um, you're Chad or you get nothing. That it's over, not it's over for a normie. That's what the position is in 2022. A normie is an incel, and I never agreed with it. I was always strongly opposed to it. But then, I when I thought back on it, or I started to think about it more, I said, like, I thought, like, you know, when is the last time I've even seen a young woman? Because the thing is, like, I'm either at my house or at work, and my neighborhood is families. It is families, and the at work I work with one woman in her 50s and two guys who are my age. Um, Now, I do see, and this is, I won't go up to this, I do see some young guys. Now, not in my neighborhood, but I do see them around where I work because it's near a college. Um, so I wanted to, I don't know, talk about that. Um, so for a while, I was thinking, like, I don't know, man. Maybe these people are actually onto something, because the thing is, like, again, I can't dismiss all of them as autistic, and maybe things really have changed, and I'm sure that they have to some extent. I don't, I'm sure that they have changed to some extent. I think it's obvious. I think the statistics back that up. That the generations. I mean, this is different. You have a much more internet, a much more internet addicted, depressed generation. Zoomers are, the generation coming up after them is probably going to be even worse. Um, but the thing is, I guess there's going to be two parts to talking about this. First is just my experience with the younger guys around where I work. Because before, before this spring, I realized I haven't seen many young guys either for years. I mean, maybe I see them when I go to the store in passing, but that's about it. And I don't really notice. I mean, when I go to the stores, I'm just kind of like zoomed in on what I'm going to get, so I don't even really notice the people around me. Um, the Basically, for me, quick aside, if I'm in a store like a 7-Eleven or something with one other person, I will notice that person. But if I'm in a store with like crowds, I don't notice anybody. I just kind of like completely zone out. I don't know if that's normal or not. But So anyway, the guy the there's been a lot of criticism of Zoomers, and I don't know if praise is the right word, but there's like, one thing people say about Zoomers is, they're all gay or trans or really effeminate. And the other thing they say about Zoomers is that, they're, super tall, that they're super tall. And so as for them being like gay and effeminate, or just, like all types of weirdness, the ones who I see around where I work look exactly like the kids I went to college with. They even in terms of the way they dressed, would fit in to, the way guys in my college dressed 20 years ago. They look completely normal to me. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with them whatsoever. The if I was going to say one noticeable difference, I would say they have a tendency to be a little slimmer than I remember, or not even slimmer is the right word, like more slight. But that could be, I could be wrong. I don't know. The uh, the other thing, so then anyway, also the other thing is that they're tall. I haven't noticed it. I mean, and I've looked really hard. In fact, a few days ago, I'm sorry, not a few days, it was last week, sometime last week, I was in the pizza shop that's near where I work because I was going to get I think a cherry coke. I can't remember where I was. I think I was going to get a cherry coke because they sell. I prefer it out of the can, and they're one of the only places. They're the only place I know around here that'll sell it out of the can instead of out of the plastic bottle. And I was there, and there was a few guys from the lacrosse team. So and this is a Division 1 school, Division 1 lacrosse team. There, I think there was 5 guys there from it, and they were in front of me in the line. And they were built. They were strong guys. But first of all, they didn't look feminine or anything. They looked like totally normal guys. They didn't seem like douchebags. They seemed totally normal. But they weren't that tall. Now, I mean, 2 of them were clearly over 6 feet, but another 2 of them were shorter than me. I know they were shorter than me because I was standing right next to them and thinking like, wow, that's that's unusual. It doesn't happen that often. And I wouldn't really expect younger guys to be that height. And again, from the guys I see at the I don't know, I wouldn't want to call them frat houses, but I do see them bringing in a lot of beer. So I don't know if they're frat houses or not. But the college guys I see walking around the neighborhood in their houses seem totally normal height. Honestly, to me, they look shorter than the older generations. But again, that's probably because they're just not as burly. Um, and it reminds me of something that the reason I'm bringing all this up kind of is because of that BSBD guy who I did that response video to. He was saying that not only are Zoomers giant, but that boomers, and I assume he means Xers, boomers, whatever. He said they're all so short. They're all like 5'5". That's the exact opposite of my experience. I feel like when I go to the store that I'm always, taken aback. I'm talking the grocery store. That's the place where I see a lot by how tall boomers are. Not just more big than tall, but tall too. I would say that again. If you asked me to just guess, like if let's just say like my local supermarket, you asked me to guess what's the average height of a Xer or boomer male, I would say 6'1". It's probably 6 feet because you tend to kind of overestimate height from a distance. And this also gets to the other thing is that if you look at the statistical data, there isn't any data now showing that, young men are taller than they were 20 years ago. I mean, there just isn't. Now that data may yet come about, but right now it doesn't seem to exist. Um, so I have no idea what's going on there. And I don't really care to debate it because it just doesn't make a difference to me. It's just something that I've noticed. And also I've realized that the people who, let's say for the sake of argument that I am right, even if I am right, nothing will convince people that on the other side. Like you could convince me if you showed me some statistics showing Zoomers were taller. I'd be like, oh, okay, that would be the end of it. Nothing, no amount of data could ever convince the people on the other end. They're just like, no, Zoomers are all 6'3", end of discussion. And I don't want to devalue their experience if that's what they've seen. Um, okay, so that enough of that. But anyway, but what about the whole idea? Let's get away from the height thing for a second because now I think things have gone even further in the black pill community where even height is being devalued. Like I'm seriously seeing guys say stuff like 6'4" with a normie face. It's over. I'm not joking. People are seriously saying that. Um, and then you have this BSBD guy or whatever he is. He's 6'1" or 6'2", maybe taller, and he's got a good voice at least. I don't know what his face looks like, but even he says his face isn't really ugly. It's just normal, and he's neurotypical, and there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with his personality, and he can't even get like again like really unattractive girls is based on what he's saying. Like, and he's put himself out there. He's tried a lot, so it does, and this is a guy who's 6'1", who should be able to get attractive girls just based on his height. Um, and again, I'm not going to devalue his experience because I believe him. I believe that's what happened to him, and I believe that it wouldn't have been like that 20 years ago. But there's a difference between saying it's harder or it's worse and it's over. And so that this is quickly becoming a consensus that at least to get your looks matched or to get anybody at all, you have to be tall. But that's the first thing. But even that's not enough. You still need a good face. That's becoming the crucial. If you're under, they change what height it is. Sometimes it's if you're under 6 feet, it's over. Sometimes if it's 5'10", it's over. Um, but that's what they say. Like even with a good face, a lot of people will say that. Although this depends on the person. Generally, taller guys tend to put more emphasis on face. Shorter guys tend to put more emphasis on height. Um, that's been my experience. Um, so I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about like these. Now I didn't see those lacrosse players with their girlfriends. Maybe they don't have girlfriends, but I was looking at them and thinking like these guys look like totally normal jocks. They seem happy and adjusted. I'm assuming these guys have girlfriends, right? And same with the normie type college kids I see walking around the neighborhood where I work. So I was thinking back to it, and I was like, you know what? I remember something from when I was on short cells. Who they were trying to say the same. They weren't trying to say you had to be chat or it was over. They were saying it was over if you were short. So I remember what I showed them once this time. I've talked about this before. This wrestler Spencer Lee. I think he wrestles for Iowa, and he's 5'3". He wrestles at the 125-pound division. Which means he probably walks around at like 135. So, strong, handsome, but short. Like 5'3" is really short. And his girlfriend is not, I wouldn't call her beautiful, but she's attractive. And she's attractive. She's his age. She's 5'10". Also not surprising because the taller girls tend to be more okay with height. And then I read an article about them. And he said, actually, when we met in 6th grade, I was taller than her. And then she grew and I didn't. And now I don't know what their relationship's like now because she's not on his social media and her own social media is private. So I don't know if maybe she's just trying to get out of the spotlight or if they had split. I have no idea. The But even if they did split, they were still high school. They were still middle school, high school, and sweethearts through 3 years of college. And you could tell from the pictures they had together that they were clearly in love. And again, maybe it's not like that anymore. I have no idea. But the objection I received to that, I've received a couple of objections. One is exception doesn't prove the rule. I'm not saying it does. I'm just saying that this is a 153 guy who it's worked out for. The other is he doesn't count because it's status maxing, which is an equivalent of beta bucks. I don't think that was it because the pictures of her, she just didn't look like the kind of girl who would care about that. That would be more of that would be more to impress a Stacy type, and was more of a Becky. And she's an athlete herself. Just seemed like I don't think so. Also, what status did they have when they started dating when he was in 6th grade or when he was? I mean, I guess he was a great wrestler in high school, so maybe he had some status there. So I mean, okay, a little bit, and also nobody cares about wrestling except at Iowa. That's the exception. Like Iowa is like one of the only places where they care about wrestling. So him, if you wanted to say that his one doesn't count, that Spencer Lee doesn't count, I will kind of give you that one. He could be kind of like an exception thing. But then I got the idea of just looking up the wrestling rankings for 125-pound wrestlers in the U.S. in college. So I looked them up, and then I just, would copy paste the name into Google, type wrestling Instagram. So you would know I'd have their name, and then you would know I'd be looking for the wrestler and Instagram. And I was able to. First of all, they all have Instagrams. There seriously wasn't a single one who didn't have it. Maybe I would have had to go to like level 50 to see it. But I think I did all the top 10, and the only ones who didn't have their girlfriend featured in their Instagram were Spencer Lee, who I already mentioned, who I think may still be with his girlfriend, and one other guy. All the other top 10 wrestlers had their girlfriends their featured in their Instagram. And like, again, these were the top 125 pounders. So I don't know exactly how tall these guys are, but I do know that there's no way they could have been like the highest you could possibly be and still be competitive at 125 would be like 5'6", maybe 5'7", because you're just going to be too skinny any taller than that to be competitive at that height. I mean, get competitive at that weight. And some of these guys were okay looking. I mean, I would say there was one or two who you could legitimately say were handsome, but most, were normal looking guys. The bottom line I think you have to go is every single one of these guys, every single one, if they posted their stats and their picture on, we won't even talk about the incel boards, but if we talked like they sent it to like Lord Blackpill or something, and said like, hey, I'm 5'5", I weigh 135, but I'm in great shape. Here's a picture of my face. What do you think? Every single one of them, Lord Blackpill or anybody like him would have said, it's over. It's over. You're done. But they all have, you can see in the pictures, they all have girlfriends. They all have girlfriends who they're with. They seem to have, in the pictures, seem to have really good relationships. Their girlfriends obviously aren't ashamed of them if they're featuring them in their own social media. And, so again, these are short, normal looking guys, and the only objection I can think of is, oh well, they status max. So, status? What status? They're wrestlers. They're 125-pound wrestlers. They have about as much status as I do. I mean, that's like something you would be ashamed of to be a wrestler. I mean, nobody's proud to be on the wrestling team. What are you going to do? Be like that? That would be like saying you status max by being a jockey. Except even being a jockey has more status than wrestling. Nobody cares about wrestling or thinks that wrestling is cool, except in Iowa. I'll give you Iowa, but the so there is no status, and there is no status. So unless these guys are all just happen to be extremely rich, and I mean, maybe some of them are, I don't know. They don't. I haven't seen anything in the pictures that makes them look wealthy. But they would be just like when I was a kid. Normal looking guys with girlfriends. And in their case, most of them, their girlfriends seem to look smogs them a little bit. I mean, not like none of them were with Stacy's, but a few were with high tier Becky's, despite them being, I think, pretty normy in the face department. And so there's, what I guess when I'm giving you some actual data. I'm not just talking about my experiences, what I've seen around town. I'm showing you something that you can go and check for yourself. So I think that, again, I'm sure it's harder for Zoomer guys. I'm sure it's way harder than it was when I was a kid. But like I said at the beginning, there's a difference between it's harder and it's over, a pretty big difference. And I don't think the data that we have backs up it's over. That's basically what I would say. That's all for now, and I'll see you in the next.